Hi, everyone. Happy Sunday. This is Lisa Ray. I'm back again on your screen. And this is Instagram Live Part 2, where we're talking about the intersection of technology and art, a subject that I think we're very, very passionate about here at the Upside Space. And I am really excited to have two of our artists, very talented artists from the UAE, who are going to be joining me in conversation. Pooja Tiwari, aka 1800.weirdo, and Liz Prado. And hi, Liz. Hi. Sorry, Pooja. I was going to say hi, weirdo. We all have these kinds of right, secret names or monikers.
Now we need to get Liz in. Hi, everyone.
Hi, Pooja. Well, great to have you. Let's try
Hello.
to get Liz to join. But before that, let's take advantage of this time. And
Mhm.
I would love if you could introduce yourself and your work.
Okay, sure. So I'm Pooja, and my artist name is 1-800 Weirdo. I create digital surreal collage art. So I started a year ago, like I started making art a year ago, and Moro Collective are the ones who like found me at first.
Mm-hmm.
And since then, it's been an amazing journey. And I also create NFTs. So I've seen so much happening in this space, and I'm really grateful to be a part of it.
It's a great time to be entering this
Hmm.
because really I think it's so dynamic, and especially in the last 1 year,
Mm.
seen so much evolution and revolution
So,
as the art world. So tell me a little bit, though, about your practice. You were saying that you also create NFTs, and otherwise, what sort of art have you been creating?
so I create collage art, so
Okay,
digital collage.
so
Um, so
yeah,
sorry, it got
digital.
cut off. Yes, yeah. So it's all digital collage, and I take different, and I try to create surreal landscapes
Mhm.
and weird art. That's why 1-800 Weirdo. Um,
I was going to do that, but you answered the question. Um,
yes.
Tell me something. So I think in your practice, obviously, and I read a little bit about your background. I mean, you've actually made the leap from sort of the corporate world, or you were already dabbling when you were in the corporate world, that art was kind of an outlet and an escape for you, as it is for many of us as well. Art can be so many different things to so many different people. But obviously, in your practice, tech has been a very vital medium and component of
Mhm.
it. And we like to think also on the Upside Space that, we're embracing really diverse art practices and sort of diverse narratives as well. Whether it's sort of analog art like a canvas, and we're able to sort of bridge that, with blockchain and create an NFT out of that. But it sounds like you're kind of really sort of ahead of the curve in terms of your fluency with the current tech. So,
Mhm.
in your opinion, how has this journey been for you, um, with this marriage of art and tech, and how valuable do you think it is today? And what are the obstacles as well, if any, that you faced?
So I believe that technology has immensely impacted art. I hope you're okay, Lisa. Um, Technology has immensely impacted art. It's kind of democratized it in a way as well, because you are not just, like, as an artist, I'm not just limited to a gallery or an auction house. I can go to anyone and everyone in the world. So I do believe that technology is playing a massive role. It's kind of a coin, the two different sides of the same coin, and also creating a lot of new frontiers. So much is happening in the space of art now. There's AI, there's virtual reality, there's augmented reality, and like
Mm,
all of these are new channels that we get to explore.
exactly. And
Mhm.
touched on the fact that community is so important. And I mean, just to put into context, I think that because before getting into the space, before becoming the co-founder of the Upside Space, I
Mm-hmm.
had art for a long time, and obviously we're talking about analog art, and so I'm somewhat familiar with that world, and I am also familiar with some of the obstacles, or like we said, the barriers to entry, whether it's from an
Yeah.
artist's view or also from an audience's point of view. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
in the gallery system, and this is not a gallerist's fault, let me start by saying, because in the gallery system, a gallerist can only represent a certain amount of artists.
Yeah.
And means that there's a lot of talent that doesn't get representation. And in the traditional art world, often that will actually slow down an artist's trajectory, right? And how far they can get. Um, and also from an audience's point of view, I have spoken at least to quite a number of people who have expressed an interest in art and collecting art in like in delving into art, in deep
Mm-hmm.
art, but feel very intimidated by walking into a white cube, into the traditional white cube system. So we have, of course, seen that with this new culture-driven disruptive tech called,
Mm-hmm.
we're seeing a lot of those boundaries dissolve, obviously. So those barriers to entry simply don't exist in the digital space. And I think that, what you were sort of pointing to or indicating in terms of the democratization of art is a here and now reality. And that's really, really exciting. But what else do you see happening? Where would you like to see this tech go? And I also wanted to preface that with saying, for in conversations that you have with other artists or your community, what are some of the challenges that artists who are working in the digital realm face today? Because we know some of the benefits, which are smart contracts, which are obviously that democratization, which is creating a community and actually being able to advocate for yourself as an artist, which is, I think, is very, very important, giving the artist a lot more agency than ever before. But what are some of the challenges that you find in your discussions?
So, having spoken to a lot of other artists, and with what I currently face too, is some people don't see digital art as a real form of art still.
Mm,
And there's a lot of skepticism when it comes to NFTs, where people ask this question that they always do, like, what if I just take a screenshot? JPEG flipping is
yeah.
something that's still being done. So the to me, those are like the biggest challenges, getting people to understand that digital art isn't just a phase or isn't just a fluke, but is actual art. Like we take the time and the effort to create something. It might not be on real canvas, but it is on a digital canvas.
Exactly.
And there's so much potential in that. So one of the challenges is that, and then it's also the mindset of the people
Mm.
when it comes to um, seeing things on a screen versus seeing things up on a wall. And
Yeah,
somehow,
yeah.
yeah.
Exactly. I find,
Mm.
sorry, we just got lost you a little bit. You're in terms of volume, Pooja, but I actually wanted to like jump in and say, I really agree with you, and that's something that I personally put a lot of thought into when we were conceptualizing the upside space. But those
Mhm.
conversations will be ongoing because, as with any new tech, it's always disruptive. It's always
It
met
is.
with a certain skepticism, and people say, no, it's not going to last. And, myself, just to give you an example, myself and Natasha Jayasingh, who's the curatorial lead with
Mhm.
the Upside Space, we did sort of this, these two lines representing the evolution of art and the evolution of technology. And first of all, we realized, and this is something I also discussed last week, we realized that at its essence, the spirit of both is aligned, right? It has to
Yeah.
be about pushing boundaries and future thinking. But every time they intersect, something incredible happens. But when that
Yeah.
happens, something as simple as I use the example of putting paint into tubes, which led directly to the Impressionist movement. And today we go to the Louvre and you see a beautiful Monet on the wall worth $100 million. But when it came out, people were outraged. They said, this is not
Mhm.
art. And we have to remind ourselves of that, that at the cusp of every great evolution or revolution, there's always going to be a lot of skepticism. And I'm with you. I really believe that NFTs are here to stay. And if anything, they'll be really deeply integrated into our lives. In a way, probably 10 years from now, that we'll be looking back and thinking that I don't remember life before them. And I think we're all looking forward to that, both you and I. But I also look forward to a day when the art is not defined as NFT art, where it's simply art, because we don't always say analog art, or we don't always say necessarily canvas let's art. Just back up a little bit.
Mhm.
So as you're saying, sort of there is the challenge for artists today in working with, I guess, art and technology and embracing this new technology that both of you and I feel will become integrated into our lives, and one day we won't necessarily differentiate art. We won't give it a category in terms of saying NFT art, you know.
Yes.
But we are at a place which is sort of like a tipping point right now. So we were in the middle of discussing, I guess, some of the challenges and
Mhm.
also some of the, incredible benefits and how this is literally revolutionizing art. But how do you feel, and where would you like to see this technology go?
So first, I'm just going to backtrack a little bit and also tell you about another obstacle that I've
Yeah.
seen, and that's
Mhm.
with the word NFT itself. Like
Right.
I'm not, yeah, it's become a bit of a stigma, I think,
Hmm.
and just because of how much has happened. Like you said, whenever something disruptive shows up in the space, like people just put their foot down and say, no, we need to, we're not going to do this. And then like acceptance comes later. So the word itself has become a taboo almost. And I've seen
Mm.
a lot of new collections, or even Reddit, for example. Uh, they have their new NFTs now, and they don't call it an NFT, they call it a digital collectible. And the word collectible like takes me back to when we were kids and we would like collect stuff. So it's,
Hmm. Hmm.
yeah, I feel like that's being resolved as well. And in terms of where I'd like to see it, I think what's happened in the past couple of years, since like digital art and NFTs have just basically broken the internet, is that a lot of communities have come together because of it. So people who are interested in pixel art have their own like separate community. And it's just brought together a lot of people who have the same interests. And this is what I'd like to see more of, to bring different people from all over the world together as part of something they believe in. And for it to also make a change in
Mm.
terms of, yeah, in terms of everything, raising awareness, charity, um, raising awareness about the different world issues. So
I
I
love
do
that.
think that, yeah, I
I
do
love
think
that.
that
And
it
that
can
is the
be.
potential.
Mhm.
That, no, that's definitely the potential. And we have seen those communities gather together. Um,
Mhm.
and it's also been so powerful. And again, that was part of the thought process behind the Upside Space,
Yes.
except that in so much as our mission was to highlight artistic practices from very specific regions, and these are for
Mhm.
specific reasons as well. When we say Southeast Asia, South Asia, the Middle East, we are highlighting the talent from these regions
Yes.
because, again, creating community around that is very important, but also being able to highlight it for a global audience, I think is really
Mhm.
important. And break perceptions. I mean, this is
Exactly.
all
Yeah.
about breaking perceptions. And that
Mhm.
kind of accessibility through community and through using digital mediums, I think has never been seen before. in our personal history as human beings. And it's probably that's why it's shaking up a lot of people and a lot of people's perceptions. But going back to what you were saying, like, again, there's a lot of value in, look, I want to take a step back and say I still think that strong art practices, no matter what medium is used, are always going to endure, and they're
Yeah.
always going to find an audience, right?
Mm-hmm.
I still think that what happened with perhaps NFTs in the beginning, like any new innovation, let's say, is, people were experimenting, and so they should. And the fact that it's kind of like we're going through what they're calling a bit of a crypto winter is
Mm-hmm.
actually an opportunity to, I think, reflect and step back, because I still believe that we have to place intentional art, first of all, in your intent and art at the center, and have the technology serve that and serve your vision, as opposed to chasing the technology, if you know what I mean. As
Yeah,
opposed to saying, well,
absolutely.
here's this tech and I'm sort of going to play around with it and I'm going to create this.
Mhm.
No problem with that, but that wouldn't necessarily fall within the category of a serious art practice.
Yes.
And what you're doing, for instance, because it's something that you get up and you do every day. And that's what we're trying to differentiate, I think, on the Upside space. So we're very open to debate and discussion around this, right? And that's, again, what's really healthy about this space, is it
Yes.
should be open to diverse voices and narratives. And so I do have a question, though, about your specific art practice. So you were
Sure.
saying, I've read about it and I've seen some of them, and they're really, really striking and surreal. And you have mentioned that they're based on a lot of the vivid dreams that you have. So
Yeah.
can you tell us a little bit about that? And it's
Absolutely.
interesting that you're kind of, because I see it as almost, the unconscious psyche. It makes me think of Jung and, go back to that kind of dream work, which is, in the realm of kind of the metaphysical. And then you're using tech to sort of deliver that to a wider audience. And I think that's really cool. But I'd love to hear a little bit more about your practice.
So thank you for asking me this question. I always get really excited to speak about it. And I am a big fan of Jung and Freud and all their teaching. So when so I started making art a year ago, and it was because of these vivid dreams that I had.
Mm,
And they're very lucid, they're very vivid, often like in realms that I wouldn't ever imagine, but dream of rather. So I have a dream and then I wake up and I usually can't get it out of my head until I create something that resembles it. So my process starts in the morning. I
mm,
wake up an hour earlier
mm-hmm,
and start creating, or at least yeah, emulating whatever I saw in the dream the previous night. And then I come back to it in the evening and then work on it constantly.
mm.
Um, because I'm still so new to the whole space, I'm still learning. It's a constant learning process with different softwares and animating work and yeah, just even drawing because I don't really know how to draw.
But it's amazing that you're finding your way, and your particular form of artistic expression is really enabled as
Mhm.
well. It's a beautiful marriage. It's a beautiful
It
marriage
really,
with this
it
particular
really is.
kind of tech. And
Mhm.
I wanted to ask, actually, do you have any advice for artists who are getting into this space?
Yes, yes, indeed, I do. Um, it's very important to keep up with what's going on in the market because there's a lot of information right now. There's like an
Mm,
overload of information. So as best as you can keep up and don't don't get discouraged. In the beginning when I didn't even start putting my art out on Instagram or anywhere, I met an artist who's quite um, renowned in the art space here in Dubai.
mhm,
And she looked at my work and she's like, I don't think this is going to have a market here. So maybe just cut the idea out altogether. If I'd taken her advice, I wouldn't have been here now. So don't let opinions turn into beliefs. Like, do what is best for you, and just have the hunger to learn. Just learn more whenever you can. And promotion is also really important. Being now with everything that's happening in tech, there are no barriers on how well you can promote yourself.
Exactly.
So explore different channels and just don't give up.
I love that. I mean, it really is an era of artists sort of taking center stage and also taking responsibility as
Mm-hmm.
well. You know, we don't, one doesn't necessarily need a mediator as it is, you know, as it
Yeah.
was in the traditional art system before.
Mm.
But, you know, it really is about, again, creating that community and creating that. And, you know, and these sorts of terms that used to be almost maybe negative, which is like
Yeah.
self-promotion,
Mhm.
marketing oneself, are kind of essential in this space as well today. But
Yes.
everyone has a
Mhm.
particular story, and but I also find that fascinating, right? Every artist will come with their own particular story, and I love the fact that you shared that you know, persevered even while you were getting you know, feedback to the
Mhm.
opposite, and you followed your gut. And I think
Yes.
also at the end of the day, there is space for any sort of intentional, strong art practices, and we're creating that space. What
Mhm.
do you think about the curator-led model that the Upside is you know, has conceptualized as well?
So I think it's so revolutionary because it gives artists who are emerging a chance to be a part of like such an amazing space. So when Moro told me about the Upside space and like what your vision was, I was 100% on board, just because it it's not the run of the mill platform. You're actually curating fine art and
Hmm.
giving artists an opportunity to showcase themselves. So I like the fact that the curators pick artists they want to, the artists that they'd like on the platform,
Hmm.
and then we get an opportunity to showcase what we have to the world.
Oh, good. I'm glad that you sort of it resonates with you, and you as an artist also can relate. And it's a form of
Mhm.
also, and like it's another intersection point, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because we have, of course, art and tech intersecting, but I think that there's a lot of value to be had in having what we're sort of terming the curator as an art guide or an art buddy, because
Mhm.
what is happening within the intersection with art and tech is it can be very loud and very crowded and a little overwhelming when you're first um, maybe you're first encountering it.
Yeah,
And
lots of
so we
people.
want to be able to encourage a really diverse audience to feel comfortable with this space, to feel confident, to
Mhm.
and to discover new voices and new artistic practice and new artists. And so we feel very strongly about the fact that our curator is also kind of like the portal into this revolutionary new world, because I think we all, I mean, I think what becomes very destabilizing is when there's an onslaught and you don't understand what you're seeing, and we all need a guide. You know, we all need a guide and we all need an interpreter. It's kind
Yeah.
of like,
Yeah.
right, like
Yeah.
it's sort of
Yeah.
the, I see it as like a new landscape entirely, but something that, you know, we should be approached with wide eyes and open, you know, an open mind. And I think that, you know, I'm really really kicked that you're with us as well, Pooja, on
I
this
cannot wait.
particular.
I cannot wait.
And you know, also as Pooja mentioned, you know, it's so dynamic, it's changing. I don't know, by the day.
Yes, every
But
single day.
I still, as I said, so you know what you'd like to say is that the form changes, the function changes, the world is changing, but what
Mm.
endures? Like we have to always have perhaps like a silent point. And I like to think that that's art and that's creativity. That's
Agreed.
the human impulse for creativity, because there still is, as I said, an intention behind each and every piece. I think that is going to resonate with everyone, especially on the upside space.
Yeah.
Abhishek has added that there's a reason why Salvator Mundi by Leonardo da Vinci is the most expensive art. True that. Yeah, and Devika said, what endures? Indeed, what endures? Maybe that's something we have to ask ourselves, though, at this intersection of tech and art. In a world that is moving so quickly, I still believe that there's a still point. And I still believe that that is what, that is where we operate from when we create art. And that the tech is in service of that. That's my personal belief. I don't know what you think, Pooja.
I think so too, Lisa. I have to agree with you. Like it's supplementary. Tech
Mm-hmm.
is like supplementary to art. It is like turning it into a more like complementary practice, but it is, yeah, it's constant. Like creativity and art has remained constant, and that's one of the ways where we can see how humans have evolved as well.
That's right. It's
Yeah,
sort of a
yeah.
way of immortalizing our progress as well.
Mhm. It is.
Hopefully
It
it's
is. It is.
progress. Sometimes it isn't necessarily progress in terms of the human condition, or let's say a record of the human condition.
Yes.
Rudrani has said she's asking you a question. Any
Mm.
suggestions by Pooja on using any particular kind of tool for developing 3D arts? Is it
So
3D arts, or is it Rudrani, or do you want to ask anything for the digital, or for the art, or for the realm of digital arts? But you can answer that, Pooja. What sort of tools do you use? Let's ask that.
cool. So I currently don't do any 3D art because I'm still learning the software. It's a lot more complex than the ones I use now. So when
Mm-hmm.
I first started out like making art a year ago, it was really basic. It was actually on Canvas first. I did like I cut out different images and like the layered all the pictures together for the collage. But then
Mm-hmm.
that's a very tedious process, and I'm a very clumsy person, so I cut and nicked myself while I was like cutting stuff. So then I moved to creating digital collage, and my first ever tool I remember was Canva, which is a very basic but functional one.
Oh yeah.
And then I moved on to Photoshop and Procreate. My current favorite is Procreate because it's so simple and so easy, and there's like a million different great tutorials on YouTube that you can
Mm-hmm.
learn. And if you want to learn 3D art, then Blender is the way to go because it's free. It again has like a lot of tutorials, and it's a very well respected tool for 3D artists. I am trying
Blender.
to learn them.
Blender. Did you say Blender?
Yeah, Blender.
Blender. Okay.
Mm.
Great.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for sharing those insights. Um, Kesara, one of our curators from Sri Lanka, said that quote, technology in service of the art is very powerful. So thank you for that. But of course, this is all
Mhm.
open to discussion and debate. I think that what we can agree on, at least, and what we can establish, is that ironically, the spirit of art and the spirit of technology is very, very similar and aligned and
Mhm.
complementary. It should be pushing boundaries. We should be reflecting the state of humanity by pushing boundaries as well.
Yeah.
And so us, here at the Upside, we really hope to take people on an adventure. We hope to transport them. We hope to take them and coax them in the direction of, this burgeoning, like kind of the edge of new art that we all know is here to stay. I think instinctively we all know it's here to stay. So,
Definitely.
why not open yourself up to it now? But we love all the topics that we covered, the democratization,
Mhm.
the agency for artists, also Pooja, you've been so kind in sharing your personal journey and so open community. And at the end of the day, an artist's value as well is often supported and decided by a community. In the
Mhm.
traditional arts world, it's a very small community. It's a very niche community, but we've opened up that concept now in the digital realm, and that's another very, very powerful side effect, you might say, of
Mhm.
where we find ourselves today. This is a very exciting time. And okay, Rudrani has got it. Thank you so much, ma'am. Yes, got it, Blender. And I'd
Okay.
like to open it up. Any other questions? We'd love to hear from you. We're sorry that we had all of these kind of little false starts and jerks along the way, but I think that we had a great conversation. I'm so sorry that Liz couldn't join us. There might have been an issue in getting both of you to join me on this call, but we're going to circle
Mhm.
back and we're going to have another conversation with Liz because we love hearing these perspectives. At the end of the day, it's about these conversation and discourse and becoming cultural hub. And I think I hear my kids in the background. But Jay has asked, what is your view of photography as NFT art? That's interesting. What do you want to take that one, Pooja?
Yeah, sure. So initially, photography wasn't seen as what you typically create as an NFT, but there are a few collectors that have come onto the space recently who have been um, burgeoning in photography and photos as NFT art. So there are a lot of photographers in Dubai here as well who have beautiful pictures of like Dubai throughout the years. And um, I was at a really interesting event just a few days ago where an artist, Babar Afzal, has photographed Dubai like in the past 12 years. So the landscape keeps changing, and he's turned those into NFTs and also digitized it in a way where like the sky is moving and like the clouds are also moving. So it looks really beautiful. Um, as long as you have something that um, showcases a time and space that's captured in a way that'll be valuable to your collector or to the viewer, I think like photography is really the way to go as well.
Sorry. And that, that's great. Thank you for sharing that. Natasha, our curatorial lead, actually jumped in because she's
Mm.
very passionate about this as well. She said, I think any work that is digital is best sold as an NFT.
Oh
And I
yes,
definitely second that.
absolutely.
Absolutely. Today, that at least should be gaining a lot of credibility and momentum, I would say, within collectors marketplace. How would you let's sort of end this on this kind of a question or scenario. I mean, somebody who is not familiar with blockchain, with the world of NFTs, but is an art collector, what would you say to them in terms of how they should view the period of time that we're in and NFTs as art?
That's a fabulous question. It's fantastic. Because this again, like this, I think also goes back to the challenges, right, of being in this space and still having like collectors and people who are interested in art have the traditional mindset that they need to not always be in the box but like think outside of it a little bit too. So I would just say that this is where the world is going now.
Mm,
Everything is like moving towards that space, and if they're not looking into like NFTs and all the art that's on the blockchain and VR art and like yeah, AI art, everything that's coming up there now, they're missing out. Like traditional art is still beautiful, and a lot of traditional artists also now are creating digitized versions and collectibles of their work. But this is this is the future, and like if they're not part of it, then they they might miss out on things that they may fall in love with.
I love that. I really, I want to end on that point. You were so eloquent. Thank you so much, Pooja. That's beautiful. And thank you for
Thank you.
sharing that, that last thought. Having said that, I do want to share that, it's been interesting because I've been obviously having a lot of conversations with
Mm-hmm.
friends who have been collectors of traditional art, or who are curious. I would say NFT curious. You know, sitting on
NFT
the fence.
curious, that's a
So NFT
great
curious,
term.
and it's interesting because and I'm, believe me, I'm not that person. If you know me, I'm not somebody who's like a salesperson. I don't pitch people. I just believe in something wholeheartely with, you know, literally all of my cells, and I go for it. And that's really, again, how the Upside Space has also come to be, of course, with my co-founder Aisha Khan, who brought this concept to me, and I'll be eternally grateful for that, because I just believe in it. But having said that, I feel like if you put me in a room, give me half an hour with anyone, even the biggest skeptics, just give me half an hour, and I will at least convince them of the incredible potential
Yes.
within this world. And that's really all we want to do. Everything is about potential. Can you make money? Yeah, you probably can. Is that the final reason? For some people it is. So if it's money, it's easy. That's an easy metric. But the potential to be, as you said, collecting something that will endure and
Yeah.
that will travel with you through so many different realms, as also our own lives become a lot more mobile and complex, I think is and something that expresses some aspect of humanity that's very important to you, but that is so portable. The funny thing is that when we had a digital exhibition in Sri Lanka, myself, we were very kindly co-hosted by the Canadian High Commissioner, David McKinnon, and he was actually leaving his posting, and he ended up buying his first NFT, and not out of any sort of guilt.
Wow.
You know, he actually fell in love with the piece. And we actually, I mean, Kesara and I looked at each other and we said, you know what, NFTs are perfect. They're portable. I mean, we should definitely hit the diplomatic market.
Yeah.
But everybody's life is like that. I mean, I'm just moving into a new house. I have a lot of analog art that I've collected. It's always been a little bit of a burden, to be honest.
Mhm.
You know, maybe it's the slightly sort of the Buddhist curious part of me that's always said, you know, live with a little bit less or live a little bit
Yeah.
unburdened. And NFTs also enable that. And just to let everyone know, displaying NFTs is also in evolution right now, right? Pooja, you can display them on your television screens at home. There are special NFT formatted frames now that are coming out, and I'm
Yeah.
sure it's going to continue. It's also going to
Mhm.
continue. And I'm just going to circle back. Rudrani has said AI has jumped into creating art in its own algorithm. You just have to describe specifically what you want to paint, and AI creates it without any human intervention. Lisa, ma'am, what is your opinion? I mean, I would say there still is a human at one end of it, inputting something. So I don't know enough about AI. I was actually talking to somebody the other day, and we're sort of fortunate, aren't we, Pooja, that we're here in the UAE, where I think that blockchain is being so wholeheartedly embraced, and
It is.
is, you know, much more than most other parts of the world. It's, you hear it in dinner conversations all the time. So, I mean, yes, there's no human intervention, but there is some human connection with it. And also ultimately, there's human connection both from perhaps the input and also the output, right? Ultimately, what comes out has to resonate with the human being.
Mhm.
So it's something, it's a great question. It's something that I personally have to investigate a little bit more, but I'm open. If you had asked me this question maybe 3 or 4 years ago, I probably would have been a lot more resistant. And today I am definitely a lot more open to different concepts and different mediums of art. And by the way, who are we to decide what is art? But that's a different conversation. So thank you everyone so much for joining in. Thank you again, Pooja. Love this conversation. I think we could go on and on and on.
Thank you,
And
Mother.
yeah, thank you
Thank you
so
for
much.
thank you for being such a great host, and I'm super excited to be a part of the Upside. And thanks for sharing everything with me.
I would say the same thing as well. We are so happy at the Upside to have your work on our platform, which is, of course, going to be launched November 11th. Very excited for this journey that we're all on, this way of connecting across boundaries, no more boundaries, dissolving all those boundaries. And we're going to see everyone on the upside soon. And thanks again, Pooja. And thank you everyone for tuning in. And sorry about,
Thank you,
like I said,
guys.
all the tech hiccups. And you and I should get together. We're in the same area. I would love to do that and continue the conversation.
Sounds good. Yes, please.
Okay. Everyone have a great
Bye. Thank
Sunday.
you.
Thanks for tuning in, and just wait. I mean, we're going to have another great topic for next week. And we're also going to reschedule our talk with Liz in a couple of days. So please join us for that and come with us with your questions. Bye, everyone.